So let's have a look at another question of the paper 2 trial exam preparation. So right here we are given trigonometry and this is basically a rule. So let me go ahead and read the instruction and then we're going to be answering the question that follow. Now in the diagram, QS is a vertical pole. P and R are points in the same horizontal plane as Q such that QP is equal to QR. Now the angle of elevation of the top of the pole S from P is Y, and also SQ is equals to H and PRQ equals to 2Y. Now prove that PR is equals to H times cos squared Y all divided by sine Y times sine 2Y. Alright, so right here they basically we are having this question and we want to calculate this value of PR, right? Now the easy way to calculate this is to always analyze the question or the triangle rather where this PR is located. So firstly we can see that here I'll write PR there. We can see that PR here is located in triangle POR, right? So now looking at that, we can see that this type of a triangle, it is a non-right angle triangle. So by non-right angle, it means that this triangle doesn't have an angle that is equals to 90 degrees. So because of that, then in my mind, what I should think of is rules, right? So by rules, I mean sine rule, cosine rule, and area rule, right? Depending on what the question wants. Now, in this case, the question wants a side, and we are not given an area here. So I can't think of area, of an area rule, but I can consider sine rule and cosine rule. So let's have a look at this, right? So how would you consider a sine rule firstly? Now, a sine rule, you will consider it by actually having a side, right, and its angle, right? So this is an angle and an opposite side, right? In this case, we have this 2y, but then now we don't have PO. So which means now here, I can't consider what? I can't think of the sine rule. Now, what about the cosine rule? Now, the cosine rule, I can consider that given that here I have two sides that are equal and this included angle, right? But then now, if I want to find this side of a PR, I must then also calculate this side of PO, right? So how would I do that? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to then calculate PO. So therefore, let's find PO first before we can go into our cosine rule. In order for me to find PO, I can see that PO is also part of triangle SPO, right? So looking at SPO, I can see that it's a right angle triangle. So which means now if I say sine Y, right? Or rather, not sine Y, if I say tan Y, right? Then SO becomes my opposite and then PO becomes my adjacent, right? So if I have that, then this means I can cross multiply this. So by cross multiplying it, it gives me PO times 10y equals to SO, right? Okay, so now PO, if I divide by 10y both sides, 10y and divide by 10y again, therefore PO becomes H, which is the value for SO, over 10y. Now I have the side. Alright, so now to get my answer then, I will then have to use a, like I said earlier, I can use what we call a cosine rule. Alright, so now here, firstly, noting that I have this and that side, right? I can actually even find this using a sine rule now that I see it here. Because if I have this side now and this angle, then it means knowing that this is an isosceles triangle, I can then calculate these angles right there, right? So let me just continue with this using the sine rule instead of a cosine rule. Alright, so with the sine rule, I'll have to find an angle for POR, right, with the sine rule. So therefore, I will say here, to find POR, I'll first say POR is the same as OPR, right, because these are the base angles of an isosceles triangle. We don't have to write this in trigonometry, but the reason we can just write it for us for our own understanding. So therefore, this means right here that if I take POR and add it with OPR, and then add it with angle R, which is 2y, this should sum up to 180. But then these are the same thing, right? Or this is the same angle, so which means right here I can write POR twice, because that's what I want. POR and then plus 2y equals to 180. Now this will be 2 POR, because there's two of them, plus 2y equals to 180. Then I can divide by 2 right here, and then as you can see, I'm left with POR plus y. Now this is equals to 90, and therefore POR is equals to 90 minus y, right? So I can actually use that as my angle. So now if you go back into what we had, we know what is PO and we know what is this angle. So PO is linked to that angle right there, and then we're gonna link PR with this angle, right, using the sine rule, right? So therefore this means we can then now say PR over sine POR is what? Is 90 minus y, right? Now this is equals to PO over sine 2y, right? So this can also work. All right. Now cross multiplying this gives us PR equals to PO multiplied by sine 90 minus y, and then over sine 2y. Now let's see what is PO. PO was h over 10y, so I have h over 10y, and then this is with sine 90 minus y over sine 2y. All right, so now with here I can work out this 90 minus y. So working out the 90 minus y, I have h times, now in that 90 minus y, I can take out a negative factor there, right? Or rather I can just simplify it as it is, because this is a co-function. So 90 minus an angle belongs in the first quadrant, but then sine becomes cos, so this can be cos y, right? And then I can then say over, but then now here I have 10y, so 10y, it is sine y over cos y. Now this is still over sine 2y. Now this is where a lot of confusion comes in, right? This is where a lot of confusion comes in, because you see a lot of fractions, right? So let me rather simplify this for you so that you can see it. So firstly, we see that we have h times sine y, so I can write it like that. So h times sine 90 minus y, and then I make this over 10y, right? And then this divide part, I just use the symbol to separate it. Okay, so if I do that, it means I can work out on this part and finish it, and then come on this part once I'm done. So let's start off with this part, right? So here PR becomes 90 minus is a co-function again that belongs in the first quadrant, so which means now it changes into cos y, and then I have 10y there, so 10y becomes sine y over cos y, but then I still had that sine 2y. Now right here I need to solve this part. So to solve this part, I can still keep this to that part to make sure that you understand it, and then from here I can then have this cos y, and then change this part into sine y over cos y, right? So now we're still working on this part, because remember we need to simplify this part first. This part, so this is still that, but then now because of there's a lot of fractions, so we rather separate it like that. So let's go ahead and continue. So if I'm continuing with this, I'll have h cos y, then I'll change divide into sine and then swap the second fraction, right, over sine y. Remember, this is still one thing, and then I still keep that one as it is. Then here, multiply this with that. It gives me h cos squared y over sine y. Then now right here, I have sine 2y, then I make this over 1. So I repeat what I did on that first part, but then now I'm doing it on the second part. So I have sine y here, I change divide to multiply, and then I swap the second fraction. Then I multiply this with that, then it gives me h cos squared y, and then that with that, and then it gives me sine y multiplied by sine 2y, and that is my value for PR. And that's how we end this video. You see here, we managed to get this value here. So you would have even gotten the same answer even if you had used your cosine rule. So it doesn't matter which one you basically use. The one that you feel like it was easy for you, that's the one that you're always supposed to use. But it's very important to see what you give it and to see what was triggered. Earlier we said that this was a cosine rule because right here there were two sides and an included angle, and this was valid as well. So even if now what I actually did when I noticed that actually I can just use this and that, this is as well valid, right? Doesn't matter which way you use it, as long as you understand the approach and you actually approach it in a way that is actually working for you or that is valid to you, and that's the only thing that you need. And that's it for this video, and I'm gonna see you on to the next one where we do more of the preparations for the paper 2 trial exam, and I'll see you into that one. Cheers.